Supply chain has changed a lot lately. So, which are the real time transportation visibility platforms? That's what we are going to discuss in this.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sam Gupta, and I am principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent ERP and digital transformation consulting firm. We help our clients with digital transformation strategy, enterprise software selection, as well as implementation. On that note, let's go back to today's topic, which is going to be real-time transportation visibility platforms. So just overall, from the background perspective, the transportation visibility platforms differ from your supply chain visibility in general. And the reason for that is the kind of suppliers and the kind of carriers that you are going to have as part of your transportation visibility. That's very different from your supply chain visibility. Supply chain visibility is going to be the overarching superset, and that is going to utilize the insight that you are going to get from your real-time transportation visibility platforms as well. But for the most part, the companies that might be claiming supply chain visibility, they might either be relying on these platforms for the data, or they might not have the transportation data at all, even though they might be bundling everything from the supply chain visibility. So now let's look at the list. Number 10 on our list is trucker tools. And trucker tools, this is going to be best for freight brokers to see the load visibility. Some of the layers that are going to be really important here is how much data these companies are going to have, where the data is coming from, how powerful is going to be their network, and which modes are they able to collect the data for. And that's where the real difference is. And sometimes it could be very confusing when you look at these tools. You are not going to get clear insights in terms of what data you are getting. The other challenges that you are going to see overall is that they are going to relying on you to be able to onboard the carriers. So even if the carriers are going to be part of their network, and if they might require to opt in for your network, you might not get the visibility that you might hope that salespeople might be claiming that you might get from the platforms. So be super careful, analyze the network, and understand their depth in terms of which modes they afford to really get the benefits from the tools. So trucker tools, for the most part, is going to be designed from the freight broker perspective, and they are able to provide the load visibility. And the reason why these companies are able to get this data is because they might be targeting a couple of ELD integration providers, and that's where they are getting the data. So pros is that they have the ELD integration available. This is going to be SMB friendly, and you are going to get very detailed visibility. The cons for this going to be that does not cover all of the transportation modes, such as the air, ocean. Their network is going to be fairly limited. The UI is clunky, and integrating with TMS requires consulting help. They are not going to have as many TMS, ERP integrated as part of their network. So their data is going to be substantially limited. So that's number 10. Now, number 9 on our list is IntelliTrans. IntelliTrans is best for SMB companies needing global visibility. So in comparison to your trucker tools, IntelliTrans is going to have slightly richer data for the global visibility for all modes. Now, the pros for IntelliTrans is it's SMB friendly, and then you are going to have those multimodal features from the multi-party perspective, and then they have the execution component as well, which is going to be your integrated TMS. So in general, they are going to have some more data, and the integration is going to be easier for the SMB if you're looking for TMS as well as the visibility platform together as part of one bucket. Now, the cons for IntelliTrans is going to be this is limited to road, rail, and ocean, not designed for large enterprises, and the ecosystem limited as well. So that's number 9. Now, number 8 on our list is Bloom Global. Global is best for SME companies needing global visibility. The pros for Bloom Global is they have the multimodal features, integrated TMS. So just like your IntelliTrans, they are also going to have the execution component, which is a huge plus for them. Now, this is part of your Wise Tech Global Group, which is a humongous company from the supply chain perspective, and they have a lot of offerings as part of their portfolio as well. So now that is going to be slightly bigger suite overall in terms of getting this data. Now they'll be able to combine all of this data because they might not have this data from the transportation perspective. That's why they have bought them. So you need to talk to them and figure out if they are still selling a standalone, or maybe you are going to get a suite, or maybe they are going to be utilizing this for only certain industries where they were really strong. So overall direction of Bloom Global is probably going to change, but that is the pro for Bloom Global. The cons for Bloom Global is their ecosystem is fairly limited, not as well adopted or funded as some of the other options, not as comprehensive as other options on the list. So that's number 8. Now, number 7 on our list is Overhaul. And Overhaul is a very unique solution and one of the layers that we have not touched so far, just because all of the other solutions might not do as good job as what Overhaul is going to do. And they are really strong in that transportation risk, the fraud management, the theft management, compliance, visibility, insurance, all of that. And typically they are going to be utilizing some of the feeds or the AI workflows that other solutions might not be thinking as of today. For example, they have very strong feed for your GSOC, and that's going to be your risk GPT, etc. capabilities that they are really trying to include as part of that. So most likely some of these platforms are probably going to be utilizing their data feed for these capabilities if they might not have feed from the insurance perspective or from the risk perspective. The cons for Overhaul is going to be the communication errors between the carrier and the platform. So even though they have some integration with carriers, but they don't have as streamlined workflows overall. The limited network may require carriers to participate, and that's the major challenge in the industry overall. Everybody's claiming that they can bring on your carriers, and that's how they are growing their networks. But for the most part, negotiating with carriers, getting them on the platform is a big deal. So make sure you are going to do due diligence before you get this platform, because if you don't get the carriers, then you are not going to get the insights, and then you are not going to get the reliable. And overall, the design is not there yet, because all of these IoT ELD devices, they are sending a lot of data. Sometimes that could be too much. So if you are going to have granularity, if it is going to be designed well, then it is going to be meaningful. So as of today, Overhaul is not as well designed. So that's number 7. Now, number 6 on our list is Trimble Transporion. And Trimble has bought up a company called Transporion, and they were into that transportation visibility. So best for global transportation companies seeking a global visibility and sustainability solution. They're really strong in sustainability. So every single supply chain solution out there is focusing on one aspect. The whole sustainability aspect is very big as well, and they are able to cover that. Now, strength of their network, they are going to have roughly what, 150,000 carriers as part of their network. When you compare this with some of the SME players, they hardly have any number of carriers. So again, it is the strength of the network that matters for the visibility platforms as well as for AI. The other pros that are going to have for this is integrates with over 3,000 ERP and TMS systems. So that's their power. That's where they are getting a lot of data, but they are also pre-integrated with those systems. So that's a huge plus. That's why they are so strong with their data as well as capability. Power of Trimble's powerful maps as well as telematics technology. They also have time slot and the retail time slot function, which is very unique in planning that loading, unloading functionality a little bit more from the execution perspective. But that also is going to be impacted because of your planning component, the way you are going to plan. So it's all in one package, which is a huge plus for them from the transportation company perspective. Now, the cons for them is going to be mainly and European solutions. So they don't really have US presence at this point of time, which might take some time for them to get that. So if you are a global company or European company, it might make sense, but for now they don't have presence in the US. They also relies on some other data sets. So they have signed a new partnership with Rombi for some data sets. So even their data set is not going to be unique. Everybody's forming some sort of partnership depending upon who has what data, and that's why they are sort of combining all of these insights forecasting. So not as comprehensive as the other solution. So that's number 6. Now, number 5 on our list is ShipU. And ShipU is going to be best for companies looking for road transportation visibility, mainly focused in Europe. And this is also a very European solution overall. And E2 Open is relying on their data. So there's a little collaboration between those two. Sometimes the companies are going to be not as strong either with the European data, or they might not have as strong transportation data. So E2 Open is also relying on ShipU for their data set. Now, the pros for ShipU is going to be carbon emission tracking. And carbon emission tracking, we have not spoken about that. That is going to be part of that sustainability bucket overall. So that tracking itself is a huge deal. And especially in the Europe, they have the e-invoicing workflows that are going to be impacted because of your carbon emission tracking. So depending upon your architecture, where you want to track that, but you would require a lot of data overall collaboration for your carbon emission tracking as well as compliance reporting. So things are changing overall from the architecture perspective because of your sustainability e-invoicing. And that's why these companies are going bigger just because of that network effect. Now, the accurate positioning about trucks, and that's a big deal overall. The reason why they are able to do that is because of their data, the machine learning to calculate ETA. So they have very strong machine learning component. The smaller solutions are not going to have as strong AI ML component. They simply are going to have data. They are simply providing data just like a BI tool, but they are not going to have as strong machine learning. And if you don't have that, then you are probably going to get partial misleading insights. They are not going to be as meaningful. And for AI to work, you require a lot more data, a lot more network. That's where the bigger ones are probably going to be slightly. The cons for ShipU is going to be network is not going to be as strong as the other platform, mainly a European solution as well, not integrated suite as part of the platform. So those are some of the cons, but that's number 5. Number 4 on our list is Descartes MacroPoint. And Descartes always was slightly more data company. Overall, they were slightly more legacy vendor, especially when you talk about air transport data. They had a lot of it. So they are still the vendor. They have very strong network as well, but even their network is going to be very limited. So some companies are utilizing their data to make sure they are going to have their data set as well, and they are going to be utilizing somebody else's data. So it's all over the place overall in terms of the way collaboration is happening. But for the most part, Descartes is really designed for global freight visibility and the carrier capacity. They're really strong in that transportation space for the logistics intensive businesses, whether these logistics intensive businesses are going to be slightly more asset centric businesses, or they are going to be transportation centric business. For the most part, when you look at the market verticals of either IFS or Infor, they were also targeting these asset intensive businesses. So Descartes is also very strong there. Now, the pros for Descartes is going to be the ability to fine tune alerts and accurately track drivers' location all the time. When you look at some of these smaller solutions, they are simply getting data and dumping on an UI. They are not going to have as much granularity. The design is not as thought through. So it's going to be very frustrating. Even though you might have data insights, it might not be very meaningful. So that's where Descartes is really good. The cons for this is going to be expensive. Carrier performance might not be as strong, designated from the perspective of logistics providers, as well as limited carrier network, just because they are attacking only one particular aspect, as well as this is very freight forwarder or from the perspective of the asset intensive companies. So their perspective is very limited overall, but they are definitely solid vendor for the real time visibility perspective. And that's number 4. Number 3 on our list is E2 Open. This is going to be a platform for best for global companies looking for complete suite, including network planning and execution. For the most part, if you look at the E2 Open partnership, even though they claim that they have all the data, but even they rely on some of the vendors for the real-time visibility data. And they don't have all of the data from the transportation perspective. So they are also relying on some vendors. So the pros for E2 Open is going to be complete suite, combined network, channel, and carrier, and richer data and analytics. The AI is going to be strong. The cons for E2 Open is relies on ShipU for transport visibility, or maybe they are relying for the European data set for the most part, everybody is relying on somebody, but E2 Open does have one of the strongest network not the best fit for companies looking for a stand-alone RTB platform because you are going to get a suite. So that's number 3. Number 2 on our list is 4Kites. They are the strongest in the transportation real-time visibility data. This is going to be good for the enterprises seeking a standalone platform for real-time transportation visibility. If you're looking only from the transportation perspective, then 4Kites is going to be a great platform. The pros, and now let's look at the numbers overall. And sometimes it's going to be harder for you to compare these numbers because some people are going to be talking about carriers, some are going to be talking about trucks, some are talking about fleets. So it's not really apple to apple, but you need to do your research to find out who is going to have the best network, because that's what is going to drive AI planning, forecasting accuracy, the positioning accuracy as well. So 4Kites is definitely one of the strongest vendor out there, and they have roughly 490,000 carriers as part of their network. They claim that their the ETA's prediction is going to be 6 times more accurate. Now, how true that is, that you need to test yourself. They definitely have one of the stronger network, so their prediction is going to be far more accurate, but 6 times, 5 times, whatever that is, that's their claim. And they have 98% of the global ocean traffic that they have as part of their network. That's how big their network is from the transportation perspective. They also have 17,000 airport, so they have that data. 1.5 million monthly parcel, and the last mile load, so they have last mile load as well, and visibility past transaction to include yard, warehouses, stores. So their perspective is slightly bigger overall, but how the overlap is going to work between the supply chain visibility versus the transportation visibility, that you have to decide for your architecture. Now, the cons for Kites is going to be that it is fairly expensive and not as strong for the service parts, and some users have reported complaints about that. So even though it is going to be very strong from the equipment perspective, it might not be as strong from the parts division perspective. So again, it's all because of the network where they are going to be really strong, and that's where their data is going to be skewed. So again, do your due diligence, talk to the users how reliable their data was, read between the lines the way users are speaking, because they all are going to claim that these platforms are great, but again, that is going to be designed from a specific perspective. So they are also going to have limited integration with other TMS systems. They are not as integrated at this point of time. For example, they are primarily being used as more of the data feed as opposed to the standalone visibility platform, but there are transportation companies that are using them as the standalone visibility platform. So that's number 2. Now, number 1 on our list is Project 44. So Project 44 is going to be best for SMBs or enterprise seeking a standalone platform for real-time transportation visibility. They also collaborate with O9 Solutions. O9 Solutions is using their feed. So for their planning data, I mean, they are going to have the complete supply chain visibility solution, and Blue Yonder is using one of them as well for their data feed. For the most part, they don't really network. So again, everybody is using these feeds somehow to complete the equation for their AI, for their ML workflow. So Project 44 is number 1. Their pros are going to be they have the carrier compliance guarantee. Now, that is the biggest pain overall in the industry right now. Even though these companies are able to claim that, you know what, I'll give you the guarantee, but if your carriers are not willing to participate in the network, then you are not going to have visibility. You are not going to have traceability. The platform is probably not going to work. Your insights are probably going to be skewed. So these guys are able to provide that guarantee, which is interesting. I don't know how that works, but you might want to dig into that a little bit, what that guarantee means and what you are going to get. Are they going to be refunding just the platform fee? Are they going to cancel that? Or are they going to be refunding the implementation fee as well? Because it's not just their platform which is going to be meaningful. It's going to be far bigger investment for you. So you might need to do a little bit research how the guarantee works. For the most part, this is not open platform. So maybe their competitors might be claiming that they are not open platform, so they are not going to get the carriers. So even though carriers are going to be part of their network, they still have to opt in your network. And if you're not able to do that, then you might not get the insights as they claim. So do a little bit of research there. So overall, from their network perspective, they are one of the strongest. They have roughly 230,000 carriers as part of their network. They are integrated with over 760 or 800 ELD providers, I believe, for more than 48 countries. And these ELD providers are emitting the data from the ELD perspective. That's where their network is really strong. Now, they have 4.33 million drivers, which is a lot, and that might change. And I don't know when you are watching this video, if you are watching after a year, these stats are definitely going to change. But as of today, they have 4.33 million drivers and 3.55 million trucks, 800k fleets, and they are going to be GDPR compliant. Especially when you talk about these data sets, you need to be GDPR compliant, especially in the Europe geography where you are utilizing this data all over the place. Everybody is using so much data, and I don't know where the boundaries are from the GDPR perspective, but this is very interesting that they are claiming that they are GDPR compliant. Now, the cons for Project 44 is that they are going to have probably steep learning curve just because it's a comprehensive suite, and you will require learning in how to set up. And if you don't set up right, then you are probably not going to get the insights that you're looking for. It's probably not going to work. So not an open platform. Even this one is not an open platform and requires carriers to agree on connecting, which is a huge problem. And that's why they are providing that guarantee. Nobody else is doing that. But Project 44 is very strong in their network and one of the solutions that you should be for real-time transportation visibility. So that's number one. On that note, if you enjoyed this video, we are going to publish a detailed article with this video. So check that out. If you have not checked our digital transformation report for 2023, we are going to include the link of that as well. So you might want to check that. If you have not subscribed to this YouTube channel, we publish these videos on a weekly basis, so you might want to subscribe to that. And this podcast is also available in the audio form on Apple, Spotify, or Google. So head over there and subscribe if you like. On that note, thanks for tuning in. I will see you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.